I'm Janet, try it like it, create it, and today we're going to be making a Christmas ornament using copy paper, and all you need is 2 sheets of copy paper for this ornament. And so what I'm going to do is take one copy sheet and just mark off randomly about 3 inches at the bottom, and this is the only area that we need to put color on. And so I'm going to start here with a little bit of paint, and I may even mix 2 colors together and add some water to it. And let's get that color going. Here, I gotta grab a paintbrush. I didn't do that. All right, I got a paintbrush. I'm gonna add a bit of water. I know I'm a little off screen here, but you're gonna get the gist of it. Okay, so I'm mixing those 2 colors together, pretty watered down, large paintbrush, and I'm just going to put those colors in this area. Make sure you go all the way to the edges. Now, if you go beyond, it doesn't matter. Okay, we just need a little bit at the bottom to be covered. All right, so we started with that, and then I'm just going to clean up my space here with a baby wipe. That's what you hear me getting out. All right, so I'm going to clean off my glass mat, and then we'll quickly move on to the next application. Try to get the paint off my hands. All right. And so then I'm just going to take some stamp pads and just kind of add some color on here. So you get the idea, we're doing kind of random colors. All right. So quick coverage. You could do stenciling, you could do stamping, you could take a marker and just draw on there. Anything to get some quick color down onto the paper. All right, and I'm just gonna touch up the ends here just to make sure that the very end is covered, because we're more than likely gonna see that in our project. All right, so now I'm going to set this aside to dry. You could actually even do, I'm gonna grab it before I close off here. I'm going to do a little bit of a spray. And typically I would do this in a spray booth. I'm doing it under the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. Just a quick, real quick coverage. And that might be too much. So I'm cleaning up my spray nozzle, and then I'm going to clean up this mess here by moving it around. All right, so there we have our kind of messy colored covered paper, and you're going to set that aside to dry. All right, so now my paper has dried, and you can see here that what's happening down here at the end is all kind of uniform. So I'm going to cut some of that off because of the visual activity here is more interesting to me. So, and I think as we go along, that will make more sense to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off before we get started. So you can see the difference there, that the activity happening along this edge is a little bit more dynamic than what was happening there. And you could visually see that there was kind of a line there. So now I'm putting my 2 pieces of paper back together, and I know one is a little bit shorter than the other. That's okay. But now I'm going to work on the length here. And my first cut for this, and if you want, you could even, just so they don't move on you, I'm going to go ahead and just put some clips on here to hold the papers together until I get closer to that edge of cutting. All right, so actually I'm going to clip it the other way because I've got this long green line here that I don't want to incorporate, and that edge will not get used. So let me just rework what I'm doing here for a second. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my first cut. And my first cut is going to be at a 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to line my paper up here. I'm going to the 1/2 inch mark. And so I have an inch here. And I'm off camera. I know you can't see it. But I'm lining up my paper at 1/2 inch. And I am going to cut through both strips of paper. Now this is copy paper, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then I'm just going to do increments of 1/2 inches. So my next cut is going to be at 1 inch. And I'm going to work my way across the paper until I have, I believe, 5 cuts is what I had planned on. So let's do at 1 inch. And I'm just setting these off to the side. And now I'm going to go to 1 1/2. I'm going to have to turn my paper around here so that I can see my markings. And the next cut is at 2. And the last cut will be at 2 1/2. I have to take my clips off because they're going to get in the way. And this is somewhat forgivable. I mean, if you're not perfectly great at cutting off the strips at a straight angle, it's okay. We can definitely work around it. All right, so now I have, just show you here, I have my strips. So 2 1/2, 2, and I'm just lining them up so you can see how small they get. All right, and so there's the next one. And this is the first one I'm going to work with. Now, I'm going to work from the other end, all right? And I am going to do paper beads. So I'm going to roll all of these up into paper beads. So let's get set up for that. I need some white glue, and I need a bead roller or a dowel or pretty much anything that you're comfortable using. This is what I use. I'm actually going to go with one that's a little bit larger here. Sorry, I know I'm moving the camera while I'm reaching in to get this. And these are ones that I have actually made myself from a cotter pin. And this is actually just a rolled bead of paper back here that I wrapped some duct tape around. I do have a tutorial on how to make these if you are so inclined. So yeah, I'm going to start at the white end of my bead, and remember that we have one piece that's a little bit longer than the other, so I need to make sure I get that second piece started as I reach it. And if you're uncomfortable with doing that, you can definitely cut off to make an even end if you'd like. And here I'm just gonna go ahead and roll my bead around the cotter pin, and for some reason it's not catching in there. That's okay. I can actually now just pick it up and roll by hand, and I'm rolling 2 thicknesses of paper at the same time. All right, and now as I get to the end here, is my white piece of paper gets to be longer. I want to trim that off because I definitely want the pattern that we created to be what is seen on the outer part of my bead. So there, you can see how the activity that's happening at the end of the paper is what is most important to me. And so now all I need to do is put a little bit of white glue there to hold that together. And that is our first bead rolled. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that with all the other pieces. And if you want to, you can even go in and then color the ends of the beads if you're interested. And then we'll get to put our ornament together. All right, so the next step I'm going to do here is I am going to go ahead and take my marker. I'm using an alcohol ink marker, but it could be any marker. And I'm just going to go over the white edges here that might show a little bit on my ornament. And so I'm just going to give it a quick coat. Now, if you wanted to, you could definitely put a protective coating over this if you wanted to do something like a Mod Podge or anything like a diamond glaze on here, even UV resin. If you wanted to coat your pieces, you could. If you're working with children, I would just leave them as is, or Mod Podge would be okay, or even a white glue. But then, of course, you're going to have to give it some dry time before you move on to your next step of putting it together. Now, I created my own paper to roll these beads, or own design to roll these beads. But if you don't want to go through that step, things that you could use would be scrapbooking paper or even wrapping paper. How about gluing down a napkin design to your paper before you roll it? You have a lot of options. But if you're working with kids, they might have fun creating their messy, I'm going to call it the messy step, the messy layers by, scribbling or drawing, or the fact that you don't have to put any shape at all and just let go and put color down is often fun, and it does kind of let you let loose of your creativity, and then turning it into something that is pretty, giftable, nice, makes it really gives you a sense of satisfaction and achievement by doing that. So, consider that step if you're interested in those kinds of benefits. That's kind of a fun thing to do. You could even use magazine paper if you wanted. I mean, you don't have to go to great lengths to get a decorative wrapping, because as you can see, we're not using a lot of the paper itself. Now, the next step I'm going to do is to tie these all together, and I am going to use this kind of festive pipe cleaner in green. However, you could use cord, you could use string, you could use I'm thinking wire, but I'm trying to think of the right stuff. The floral wire would work. It's an inexpensive wire. So lots of options for putting these together. I just thought using pipe cleaner might be fun, and also very kid-friendly. So I'm just twisting these two together at the end, just so that I have a piece that's a little bit longer, and that is pretty secure. I'm pulling on it and it's not coming apart. So I'm going to feed this through my bottom bead and work up to the top, because I want to end with whatever I'm using to feed through. I want to end up at the top. So now I'm going to go through the next bead. And the nice thing about the pipe cleaner, and hopefully it's not going to fight me too much here, is that with the little ends, they do collapse. And so I should be able to push them through my bead pretty easily. And that was another reason, it's starting to fight me now, but that was another reason why I went with the larger cotter pin to roll a larger opening. So I'm just going to work on finagling this piece through the center if I can get it to pull and come out on the other side. There we go. All right. And then I'm just going to pull both ends to center it and adjust it before I move on to the next piece. Alright, so here is my little tree shape, and you can see I could make it taller by adding more layers, or I could have done, instead of 1/2 inch steps, I could have done 1/4 inch steps, and then I would have to design more paper to go into my ornament, but that's definitely doable. As I got to each end, you can see how the pipe cleaner added this decorative side to it, but if I wanted to, I could have fed on beads at each end, and then I would have a little ornament at each end. And so now I'm at the top here. I can definitely twist this and turn it into a hanger, and there is my ornament. Or if you have beads that you'd like to send this through, I don't know if this one's opening is going to be large enough for 2 wires to get through, but I'm going to give it a go here. I'll just show you if I can. May have to go with a larger bead here, but my idea was to put a decorative piece at the top. If I can get them, yeah, okay, I got it through. It's a little tight, but so there, I can have a little decorative element at the top. If you have a star bead, that would be really cute at the top here. And now I can just take these and twist them together to be my hanger, and my ornament is finished. So there is our cute little Christmas tree paper bead rolled ornament. And here is a version with just a napkin glued down with a glue stick at the bottom of the page. You can see how this one is cut uneven. I did another one using the other half of this napkin, and this uneven edge, I just hung over the end of my paper here. So when I roll, it just gave me an uneven edge when I glued it down, but it worked perfectly fine. And to show you that I cut my strips into 1/4 inch pieces, staggered them. So I started with a 1/4 inch bead here, and then just increased by a 1/4 instead of a 1/2 inch. So here's the little short 1/2 inch one, and then this one is a 1/4 inch. So you can see here how what the difference is. And this was just, you know, one piece of paper doubled up, and this is the length of the tree I got doing the 1/4 inch. So depending on which look you like, I think if you're working with young children, this one might go over easier because it's faster and less work, where if you're doing something with adults, older kids, or even yourself, you might find that the 1/4 inch gives you a nicer tree shape. Once again, I used a pipe cleaner because it was easy to weave between the beads. I did try using cord, but I found that to do something like using like a baker's twine, you would have to use needles to get it through your beads. And that's definitely doable, but you need quite a long bead to get through this first bead here. And so those are a couple of options there. And this one is just napkin. I didn't coat it with anything. I didn't peel it apart. I just glued it down as it was, and trimmed it to fit the bottom of my piece of paper. I did go ahead and color in the ends red, and then used a coordinating pipe cleaner. I thought about adding beads on the end, smaller. I found that smaller beads, something like this size, didn't show up very well at the end using the cord. So I would recommend a larger bead, something more like this would show up. I'll show you what that looks like. Something like that might show up a little bit better on the ends. You could stagger the colors. Pony beads would work really well if you had some plastic pony beads. I don't have those on hand, but something like that would work really well on the ends here if you wanted to add an ornament shape. So this was the napkin. This would be similar to working with a magazine, similar to working with wrapping paper, or once again, you could create your own unique paper and make it your own, truly your own designed look to your tree. So then the other thing you can do here is you can now, if you want, you can go in and twist them so that you get the design that you like. If your tissue paper or your wrapping paper or your napkin tears on you, don't worry about it. Don't start over. Just glue a piece on top of it. I had one that I nicked a little bit, and I don't even see it here. I can't even find the nick. But you could hide it by making sure that it was in the connection between the two beads if you wanted. You could even glue it in there so it didn't move on you if you wanted to. And then, of course, once it's done, like this, if you did want to go back and put a coating over the top to protect it, you could do that after the fact, or you could do it, before you start your weaving it together into your tree format. So I hope you enjoyed doing this Christmas ornament with me, and take a moment to go back and look at the other, I guess it will be 11, because this is the 12th ornament in the 12 Days of Christmas Ornaments.